Come on, give God praise one more time. Amen. There's a word today from the Lord. 2 Corinthians, the 8th chapter. At the 10th verse, Paul is talking. Prior to Paul's conversation with someone who needed his opinion, he said, "Here is my best judgment. What is best for you in this matter?" Somewhere along the line last year, you were the first not only to give, but you were the first to have the desire to do so. And he said, you had this burning desire to execute your willingness to serve the Lord. Then he says, now finish the work, so that your eager willingness to do may be matched by the completion of it, meaning that it shall come to pass. And when completed, the same fervor and the vigor that you had for its starting, you will have when it's done. Then he says this, for if the willingness is there, good God Almighty, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, and not according to what one does not have. Oh my God, that ought to make somebody happy right there. Before I get into the meat of the sermon, I want to tag for this sermon, you've got to finish. You've got to finish. Look at your neighbor. Look at your neighbor with all the ebullience you can muster and say, neighbor, you got to finish. You got to finish. You got to finish. Jesus finds himself at the well. And the disciples return from getting lunch, much to their surprise that he's talking to this woman. And soon the woman is running to tell everybody that she's met Jesus. Meanwhile, the disciples urge him, Rabbi, eat something. Have you eaten? And he says to them, I have food that to eat that you know nothing about. Lord have mercy. The disciples said to him, did somebody bring him something? Did he fix something for himself? And he answers them, he says, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Jesus, in acquiescence of God, pushed to finish the work that God had for him on this earth, that he had been assigned to do. You must understand that the reason that you are here and we are here is, and we can come to church and we can be saved, is because we serve a God that's a finisher. Yes. Our God is not a quitter. Our God is not one that gives up. Our God will never throw in the towel, and somebody ought to be glad, because the truth about it, and if the truth be told, God could have given up on you a long time ago. God could have given up on me a long time ago, but God wants to complete the work that God started in us. Finishing lot of unfinished things in my life. I don't rest well when I've left something unfinished. I will try to stay up to complete what is unfinished, even when sleep has fallen on me. It feels good to finish stuff. To check it off as complete. And we have to go back to the days when we used to teach, don't start something you can't finish. Because anybody can start stuff, but can you get to reap the benefits of starting and finishing it with God's help? You can really never go on to the next thing that God has for you until you complete the last thing God had for you. You've got to finish. Part of our Christian characteristic or our Christ-like nature should be to finish what we start. It is by design that we should do so, because if we're made or being made, I wish I had enough time to talk about being made into the image of God, something will have to line up with what God has for your life and what God says and who God is if we're going to be like God. See, God says, I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the beginning and the end. I am the first and I am the last. I am the author and I am the finisher of your faith. Now listen, I know you hear those things, but don't overlook the and in these statements, because what happens in our lives is others look at us and see one part, but they don't stick around to see the other part, never getting to the conjunction in our life and the antithesis of our situation. And sometimes God said you might have started out one way, but if you trust me, I can help you in another way. And Paul said, last year you were good, this year you slowed up. But finish the work. We have to realize that there are some things in our lives that God says, I have a conjunction to connect one thing to the other. And you have to trust me with the conjunction of your life. And you have to not worry about what people are saying. Paul said last year you were the first not only to give, but to have a desire to do so. Now finish this work so that it may be matched with your completion of it. Paul is talking about faithfulness. Paul is talking about being faithful. If you show me an example of a finisher, I can show you one that's been faithful. Faithfulness is a spiritual law, and when it's worked, it will bring out tangible things in our lives. Many people have failed to understand that just how faithfulness is a blessing all by itself and will take care of a person. See, growing up in the church when I was little, all we heard was about who was faithful to God. Faithful to build the church, faithful to grow the church, faithful to make the church, faithful to pay their tithe, faithful to come to worship, faithful to be in worship, faithful to be in Sunday school. That's all we heard about, is who was faithful. They were faithful, and we heard that we should be faithful and we should continue to grow in the Lord. I learned early the Bible says the Lord will preserve those who are faithful. Oh my. Your faithfulness will release things money can't buy you. Your faithfulness will give you things your job, your connections, or your hookups can't get you. Lord help me. Your faithfulness will make God look beyond your faults. Somebody ought to thank him right there and see your needs. Your faithfulness has to be for God, but bless the world. It has to be for God and not for man. But it can bless the world. See, not for man or to just bless you. You can tell when folk are selfish about what they do and when they're doing it for man. Because when man don't recognize them, they stop doing it. Lord, you have to do what you do because you love the Lord. Come on. I stay stay late with pastor because I love the Lord. I sing in the choir because I love the Lord. It may not be a way of saying, may not be all that you have, but it's a way of saying that you love God and I'm faithful. Because you are faithful, I'm an usher. Because I love the Lord, I'm an usher. Because I love the Lord, I give. Not because the church needed it, but because I love the Lord. I love the Lord, so I do what I do. Let me tell you, I was a time when I was in church that we never got paid for anything we used to do in church. They told us it was your reasonable service. Lord, help me in here. And we knew that there was not a check that could compensate how good God was to us over what we did for faithfulness through to God. I dare somebody to be faithful and watch God pay all for your life. Is there anybody in here say, I'm striving out there to be faithful because I know I've got a check with my name on it. Lord help me. Jesus replied. Jesus said this to them one time. He said, no one who puts their hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. Too many folks make commitments in the church and do not follow through. Oh Lord, I'm going to preach like I'm preaching at somebody else's church for their anniversary. But you are no better than your word. You're no better than your word. Your greatest ability is your dependability. Come on, come on. If I can't depend on your ability, then what is good is your ability. God Almighty. God can depend on you to be faithful. Can he? Yes. Depend on you to be faithful. I hear people complain. I ain't got much. The Lord ain't doing much in my life. I'm barely making it, poorly living, on my way. I'm trying my best. Listen, to whom much is given, much is required. If you can't be faithful, how can you be responsible? And let me say this, one day, we will all be held accountable for the gifts and the talents we were given. And God is going to make you stand before him, and you have to answer for the things that he placed inside of you. You've got to be faithful. You've got to be faithful. I dare you to be faithful and watch God be favorable. Lord, help me in here on your behalf. If you are faithful, God will be favorable. And somebody says, I need the favor of God on my life, so I'm going to do my best to be faithful. Corinthians 8 he said last year, you were first to give. Had a desire to do so. You were first to do for the church. You were not just giving, but giving of your time and your talent. And now finish the work. Don't peter out, but finish that thing. Because better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. You've got to finish to get to the completion of, see, your faithfulness to God is your reasonable service. And in verse 12, he says this, for your willingness, if it's there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what one does not have. Your faithfulness to God is measured on the level of what you've been given by God. And what you have and are able to do with it what you can with what you have. God is fair because he didn't say not according to what you don't have, but he said according to what you do have. So it does not matter what others have. Come on, come on, come on. Just do your part with what you have. Come on, come on, come on, come on. And God will bless you with what you have to do what you can do for the church of God. You just have to be faithful, and God will cover you, and God will keep you, and God will protect you. If you're just faithful to God, all you have to do is be faithful in the church. But here's the issue. The church is struggling with people who are faithful because people are not faithful to put yourself in right positions, faithful to pray for your home, faithful to cover your children and grandchildren, faithful to steer them in the right way and teach them the way of Christ. We have forgotten that even in the home. God Almighty, help me, Holy Ghost, because I know I'm treading on some tough water. We can't come to church, shout, 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 and praise, praise, praise so hard when we're struggling with somebody who's at home that can't get here. Good God Almighty. And then sometimes you got to cry and praise because of the ones you left at the house. Oh, yeah, I said it just right like I wanted to say it. Sometimes you got to pray. Your praise is not about you, but it's about them that left at home, and you're praising God to cover them because they won't be faithful enough, and you're doing your best. But you have to make sure that when you get to the house, you say, listen, God is still there. God is still waiting on you. I know I'm going you, but my prayers ain't going to be able to cover you always and all your life. My prayers ain't going to be able to keep you always and all your life. You got to come and be faithful for yourself. God will bless you. If you do your part, and if you trust him, he's the master. I don't have enough time. I'm going to have part 2 because the first component of you finishing is you have to be faithful. The second part is you have to be fruitful. I'll preach that next week. I'll make that part 2 next week because I got to share this with you. I share with you. I grew up with a dog named Captain Crunch. Captain Crunch was a bulldog. Captain Crunch, every now and then, he could jump over the fence and get out in the yard. And my cousins, we would sometimes be playing. See, when I was with my grandfather in the backyard, Captain Crunch didn't bother me. But I didn't go in the backyard without my grandfather because Captain Crunch was kind of crunched out of his mind. Captain Crunch would leap over the fence every now and then when we would antagonize him and come running after us. But because Captain Crunch kind of knew me, I could make Captain Crunch stop and go after the rest of the children. So I would just move to the side and he'd keep going. But Captain Crunch had it together. He had it good. He had it good. We would feed Captain Crunch and we would give him water every day. He had shelter. He had some tender loving care. My grandfather loved to pet Captain Crunch. Captain Crunch had it made, but he had one problem. He could leap over that fence. And he liked to go outside the gate. The gate was there to protect him, but it was also to protect us. It marked his boundaries and his limits. He was allowed to go outside the gate when my grandfather would take him hunting with him. My grandfather would take him on supervised excursions hunting. And Captain Crunch would follow my grandfather at the command of a word. But something inside of Captain Crunch refused to honor the boundaries at any time. So one cold and stormy night, Captain Crunch got outside the gate, and I was looking for Captain Crunch to feed him. And I told my grandfather, I said, listen, Captain Crunch is not there. He probably got out the fence and is wandering, and the weather is bad. But I also told my grandfather, I said, but I'm sure he'll find his way home. But Captain Crunch was too good of a hunting dog for my grandfather to lose Captain Crunch. So my grandfather went out in the storm and the rain, and he went looking for Captain Crunch. And after a while, my grandfather came back with Captain Crunch, and I said to my grandfather, I said, well, where did you find him? He said, well, I just went along the path that we normally take, that we walk together a lot with. I just went along the path, and I called his name, and Captain Crunch wasn't too far off the path where we'd always going. And can I tell you that God is doing the same thing? Yes. God said he won't allow you. He won't say, I'll wait till they make their way back home. But our master will come to the road that he's walked with us. And he said, I'm looking for you to be close to the road because of your faithfulness. If you're faithful to him, he'll cover you and keep you and come and get you and see about you and the road that you're traveling. God's purpose to make you faithful is to help you to do those things that he's called you to do. Many things I don't have. So I'm doing my best to be faithful. I wish I had the money to build the church I wish I had enough to secure my family like I'd like to secure them, but I'm doing my best to be faithful. I wish I could be a philanthropist and bless somebody else like Bill Gates and the rest of them, but I'm doing my best to be faithful. Maybe somebody in here got a testimony like that. You don't have everything you want to have, but you're doing your best to be faithful to what God has shown you and what God has called you to do. I haven't been perfect, but I've sure been faithful. See, God's got a purpose, and yes, I know He's able. So I have a witness in here. I hear God declaring, you must be a finisher. Just be faithful. And God says, because I began a good work in you, I will not stop until I complete that work in you. God has a word for your life that He's spoken over your life. And the Bible says that the Spirit of God watches over the word till it is performed and complete, and it will not return to God void without accomplishing what it set out to finish. So I came to tell somebody, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Come here, let me bless you. Whatever word God had for your life, He had it in the beginning when He started the world. Somebody ought to shout right there, because God had a word and you in mind from the beginning, and the word became flesh. You ought to shake yourself, because I believe that your flesh this morning. Tell somebody, you gotta finish, because God has a word for your life to complete that thing in your life. Come on, somebody, and tell a neighbor, let's finish this thing together with our faithfulness. Let's finish this thing with God's help. I don't know what God told you, but you gotta be a finisher. You gotta be a finisher. You gotta be a finisher. So let me bless you real quickly. Tell all your haters, tell all your naysayers, stay tuned to this station. Because there's a to be continued in my life. And when it airs again, you'll get the second part of what God has for me. Because in the end, I will finish. And then your testimony can be like Paul. I fought a good fight. I kept the faith. I have finished. Come on. I finished my race. And now later for me is a crown. Somebody say, I don't know if tomorrow is my day or next week's my day, but I want a crown of righteousness. I will be a finisher. Got to finish. And the key is to be faithful. And I'll tell you what it is to be fruitful. You got to finish. We as a church, we got to finish. Let me tell you, if you don't finish in faithfulness, you'll never reap in fruitfulness. I wish I had the time. But stay tuned. We'll see what seeds you have in the ground. And what fruit you bear.